Welcome back to the studio. It's that time of the evening again, time for Media Watch France. And as ever, James Creedon is with me in the studio.
Good evening, Catherine.
To bring us the inside track. Good evening to you, James. Now, we've been hearing about a mobile revolution, of course, here in France with a new operator called Free coming onto the market, slashing rates.
That's right. It's a big story, business story, news story across the board, and for a good reason, because phone bills in France are pretty high.
I have to say, sometimes, I mean, I like to talk a lot, but sometimes...
But, you know, especially if you're coming from overseas to France, I think one of the first things you're shocked by are the high prices of those phone bills. So in any case, a big a media event today and yesterday. His name is Xavier Niel. Now, he's the CEO of Iliad, which owns this new operator on the market called Free. And so let's have a look at some of the pages online, some of the kind of headlines surrounding this story. You have this, 1 year of buzz and not a euro spent on the advertising. Well, I think they're exaggerating a little bit there. Free aurait-il tout compris? That's their slogan. You know, if you're not with Free, you haven't understood anything, is the slogan basically. Now, what's interesting is they used buzz on social media and you know, generating a lot of, I suppose, suspense and questioning about this new mobile offer over the last year. And they did so. There were no advertising.
They became the story themselves.
Exactly. So they didn't use billboards. They didn't use advertising slots on television. They used, I suppose, buzz online to generate, I suppose, discussion around the launch. So that's already quite interesting. They didn't really spend a lot of money on
a very canny
the campaign.
Move. A very canny move, some might say.
Now, what a lot of people have been saying too is that he resembles another man who was pretty good at that sort of media and marketing operation, Mr. Steve Jobs.
Well, the whole press conference given in that way by the man at the top of the company does, you know, draw
And
comparisons.
we have pictures actually that where we'll see the two men in action. Here you have Steve Jobs and that Apple logo up high above the stage, standing, you know, not in front of a pulpit, but just, you know, walking freely around the stage. It's a style very, very emblematic, I suppose, of Steve Jobs himself. And so a lot of people over the last number of months have been saying that he was heavily inspired by Steve Jobs, and now you can't really deny it anymore. It's just clearly taken from the Steve Jobs handbook.
Clearly taken a couple of notes there, and why not? It seemed to work, didn't it, for Steve Jobs?
It certainly did. So I suppose we'll see where that goes, but with offers, monthly offers of you know, just €2 a month for people on the minimum wage, it's got an awful lot of publicity and I suppose a welcome offer on the marketplace for mobile phone companies in France. Okay,
we'll see how that goes on from here. But meanwhile, on to a famous Frenchman, an outspoken, notorious French hero, Eric Cantona. Now, he's supposed to be launching a presidential campaign.
Right.
It's been generating an awful lot of debate. Is it really going to happen?
Well, it probably isn't going to happen. Indeed, the whole thing was that he was trying to highlight the issue of housing in France. And so he was seeking the 500 signatures from mayors around the country that you need in order to launch a presidential campaign. And within hours, really, in fact, I suppose the next day at least, in the newspaper, he gave an interview to Libération in which he more or less, in which he spoke of the real candidates for the presidential election, which implied, of course, that he's not a real candidate.
Right, and so he's using this as a publicity stunt.
Exactly, to draw attention to the issues highlighted by the Abbé Pierre Foundation. Now, that's a foundation in France very much looking into the whole housing issue and shortage of housing issue. One of their vice presidents, here is a video actually on the Abbé Pierre website in which he visits you know, housing, social housing, which is, I suppose, you know, the issue that they're trying to highlight. And so it's a very clever publicity stunt. He managed to make the front page of Libération this morning. That's one of the main left-leaning newspapers. So a pretty clever stunt indeed. And a lot of politicians have been tweeting about it as well. We'll just take a look at some of those tweets. You know, this particular person here is saying that the vice president of the Abbé Pierre Foundation has been invited onto one of the main French talk shows this evening, the Grand Journal. So if that's not proof of success in terms of the campaign, the publicity stunt, what else is? The head of the Green Party, Cécile Duflot, says it's a pretty sad state of affairs when you have to threaten to become a candidate in the presidential election in order to have an issue that you're trying to champion, you know, listen to. You know, I suppose pointing out how centralised the French political scene is.
Right, okay. Moving on now across the other side of the Atlantic, Barack Obama is apparently, I can't quite believe this, turning to French musicians to campaign his theme tune. Why?
Oh, right, why? It's a very good question indeed. So it's not Johnny Halliday. It's a guy called Tony Jazz, in the same vein, I suppose, picking sort of Anglo
It's a good
type.
stage name,
It is. So Tony Jazz, I think we have pictures of him here. Back in 2007, he was so moved by Barack Obama's, historic success in the presidential election over in the US that he composed a little piece of music that went viral online. So this time round, the Obama's people came and sought out Tony Jazz and his partner Mathieu Billon to compose a piece of music called What's More. Now, we haven't heard it yet. No one has heard it yet. But they're creating a lot of, I suppose, speculation about what it's going to sound like. It's going to be the official campaign tune for Obama's re-election bid.
Here.
Indeed. So I suppose let's take a listen to the piece of music that actually inspired them to go out and seek the help of Tony Jazz, that piece of music that he put up online in 2007.
Still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible. Who still wonders?
Okay, a short look there, but yep, quite chilled out, quite
So
nice.
they were impressed by it, got millions of views on YouTube, and now they're coming back to Tony Jazz for more.
The rest is history. Well, thanks very much indeed, James Creedon there with the Media Watch. Stay tuned. Coming up next, it's Web News.